Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into
Absolute
it.
pressure sensor is one of the elements of the engine control unit, used in calculating the load on the power plant. But if it breaks down, fuel consumption increases and engine performance problems occur. Thankfully, it is possible to solve this problem on your own. Why do you need an absolute pressure sensor? In order for the engine in the car to function normally regardless of the current mode and loads, the provided system of control and management of the power unit must accurately calculate the density and air saturation of the fuel mixture entering the unit, for which an absolute pressure sensor is needed. The ECU receives data on the current pressure and temperature conditions in the intake manifold, for which this sensor is responsible. After that, the ECU calculates the most suitable air density in this case, and its presumed consumption to create a quality fuel-air mixture. Next, the ECU sends a few commands, and the system begins to adjust the injection nozzle. Important: although the DAD is a good substitute for the function of the flow meter, it does not affect its work and can be installed together with it. Where the DAD is located. Where the absolute pressure sensor is located depends on the specific car. In most vehicles, the DAD is located directly on the intake manifold connector. In older cars, it can be placed on flexible air lines and attached to the body of the car. When tuning a turbo engine, the DAD is usually mounted on the air duct. How the absolute pressure sensor works. Thanks to the DAD, it is possible to control the amount of air flowing through the throttle valve. On the basis of this indicator, a command pulse is created, informing about the amount of fuel required to create a balanced fuel-air mixture. The airless vacuum chamber inside the device compares the pressure level in the inlet connection with the pressure inside itself and outputs an outgoing signal based on the difference. The principle of operation of the absolute pressure sensor is based on a whole complex of actions. The sensitive diaphragm of the DAD is subjected to deformation under pressure in the inlet manifold. Stretching of the diaphragm causes a change in the resistance level on the surface position strain gauges. In other words, the piezoresistor effect occurs. Voltage oscillations begin, fully proportional to the dynamic changes in the resistance level of the strain gauges. Due to some peculiarities of the way of connection of strain gauges, high sensitivity of the device is provided, which is further enhanced by the DAD chip, so the output voltage fluctuates within the range of 1 to 5 V. Depending on the voltage level at the input of the electronic control unit, a pulse is generated, which then goes to the injectors. It helps to determine the strength of the pressure on the inlet valve. Knowing how the absolute pressure sensor works, it will be easier to determine the cause of its malfunction. Signs of malfunction of the absolute air pressure sensor. If there is a complete or partial breakdown of the absolute pressure sensor, the signs of malfunction are usually manifested as follows. Increased engine fuel consumption. This occurs because the sensor sends incorrect information about the level of air pressure in the intake manifold to the ECU, resulting in the ECU giving a command to supply more fuel than is actually required. Reduced power of the power plant. This can be evidenced by increased acceleration time and insufficient traction when the vehicle is traveling uphill and/or fully loaded. There is a persistent smell of gasoline at the throttle valve location. This is due to the fact that fuel regularly overflows, remaining on the surface of the surrounding structural elements. There is an instability of the RPM when the engine is idling. Their values then decrease, then increase, even when the accelerator pedal is not affected. There are failures in the operation of the vehicle's power plant in transient modes, especially in the process of shifting gears. Starting the car from a place, over-throttling. Problem with starting the engine. In this case, difficulties arise when trying to start the engine both cold and hot. Read also, actuator in the car, what it is, how to check and adjust it. Most of the described signs are actually common to many malfunctions. So they may also appear in case of failure of another device or unit inside the vehicle. So only complex diagnostics will help to correctly determine the source of the above described problems. But in order to more quickly detect the cause of a DAD malfunction, it is necessary to know at least the main factors that can have a negative impact on the performance of the device. Such are considered to be the gap that appeared between the absolute pressure sensor and the input fitting. Through it, air will enter the device, which will strongly affect the indicators issued by the device, and thus the entire system as a whole. Dirt clogging the pipelines, thereby preventing the elements of the device from performing their assigned function. Problems in the operation of the air temperature sensor. The fact is that it is closely connected with the DAD and has a strong influence on the functionality of the device. Damage to the flexible tube with which the absolute pressure sensor is mounted in some cars. Failure of internal elements in the device itself. Damage to wires or semiconductor breakdown. Poor fixation of the wires. How to check the absolute pressure sensor. To check the state of the absolute pressure sensor, select the method of diagnosis based on the characteristics of the sensor device. Since some cars install an analog DAD, and in others, digital. In the first case, you need to adhere to the following order of actions. To check the absolute pressure sensor, it is necessary to connect an adapter to the vacuum hose that connects the DAD to the input manifold, and then already attach a multimeter to it. Start the engine and leave it idling for a few minutes. If the rarefaction in the manifold is kept at a level less than 529 millimeters, then it is worth making sure that the hose has no damage. Also, it will not be superfluous to inspect the diaphragm of the sensor to ensure its integrity. After taking the gauge readings, the device should be disconnected, connecting a vacuum pump instead. Then it is necessary to create a vacuum at the level of 55 to 56 millimeters of mercury and stop pumping at this point. If this value does not change for 30 seconds after disconnecting the pump, then the sensor is in good order, otherwise the device will have to be replaced. If the absolute pressure sensor is digital, you will have to check it with a multimeter according to another scheme, as this device is significantly different from the analog DAD. You will have to act as follows. Switch the tester to the working mode of the voltmeter. Start the engine and determine the location of power and ground contacts. The wire connected to the output contact of the absolute pressure sensor should be connected to the multimeter. If it is serviceable, it will output a stable 2.5 V or close to this value. If the output figure is significantly lower or higher than the standard voltage level in such a situation, it means that the sensor does not work properly. Switch the tester to the tachometer mode and disconnect the vacuum hose. Connect the plus probe to the signal output and the minus, respectively, to ground. In normal operating condition, the device should produce 4,400 to 4,900 RPM. Now it is necessary to connect the vacuum pump to the DAD. After a few changes in the discharge, it is necessary to make sure that there are no jumps in the tachometer readings and pressure values. When the vacuum pump is off, the tachometer should show 4,400 to 4,900 RPM, which will indicate normal functioning of the absolute pressure sensor. If not, the absolute pressure sensor should be repaired or replaced. Read also, what are the causes of car engine starting problems? Cleaning the absolute pressure sensor. To clean the absolute pressure sensor, you need to first remove it from the seat. True, the location and method of attachment in some cases may differ from the standard, which depends on the make and model of the vehicle. For example, turbocharged engines, as a rule, there are two sensors at once. One is located in the intake manifold, and the second, on the turbine. The device is usually mounted with a couple of bolts. Clean the sensor very carefully, using in the process special carb cleaners or similar in specificity and characteristics of cleaning agents. In the course of cleaning, it is necessary to remove dirt from the device body and its contacts. Moreover, in the process you must not allow damage to the O-ring, diaphragm, and any elements of the housing. It is enough to spray a small amount of cleaner inside, and then pour it out together with the dirt removed from the sensor components. Replacing the absolute pressure sensor. Replacing the absolute pressure sensor is easy and does not take much time. It is enough to perform the following actions. Remove the terminal from the battery. Disconnect the power supply to the sensor. Unscrew the fasteners holding the sensor in place. Pull the unit out of the manifold or manifold. Install a new DAD. If necessary, replace the O-ring or clamp as well. When the procedure is complete, the new unit will not need to undergo any additional calibration or tuning, except that in some cases, the system may require some fine-tuning on demand. This is usually the case when the vehicle is equipped with a highly boosted or specially improved engine with a special firmware of the electronic control unit. In other cases, the replacement of the absolute motion sensor does not entail additional actions and allows you to run in the novelty immediately after the procedure. In general, the absolute pressure sensor is deservedly considered the most reliable device in the design of the car because there is almost nothing to break in it. But if the absolute pressure sensor does fail, it will become a big obstacle for the power plant operation, or, at least, will put it into emergency mode. In the comments, you can tell us whether you have encountered malfunctions in the absolute pressure sensor and how the situation was resolved, as well as whether it is worth trying to deal with this kind of problems yourself or better to entrust it to the experts. In conclusion, understanding the purpose of absolute pressure sensors is crucial for maintaining optimal performance in various applications. Regular diagnostics and timely repairs can prevent costly downtime and ensure accurate readings. By following the recommendations outlined in this video, you can enhance the reliability of your systems and extend the lifespan of your sensors. Remember, proactive maintenance is key to achieving efficiency and accuracy in your operations. Thank you for watching, and we hope you found this information valuable.